Well, hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Schell. I'm Capsim's Market Development Manager, where my primary role is to assist both our academic as well as our corporate authors with creating the very micro simulations that we'll be discussing today via our CapsimInbox platform. Again, I'd like to thank you all for joining our Getting to Know CapsimInbox and our introduction to the CapsimInbox Pilot Pass initiative that we'll be doing in the course of 2021. And today I'm happy to describe a variety of different aspects of how we can bring some, bite-sized experiential learning into your courses with some variety each month throughout the calendar year next year. Now, as far as an agenda goes today, what I thought I would do is just start off with a brief intro to the CapsimInbox Pilot Pass that some of you may have seen from our recent email communication. After that, we'll go ahead and take a walkthrough of the CapsimInbox participant experience for those of you that may be only familiar with our project and group-based simulations at this point, or for those of you that may have heard a little bit about Inbox but wanted to take a deeper dive into it. After that, we'll go a little bit more in depth on the CapsimInbox Pilot Pass by explaining, why did we decide to go about this initiative, how you as well as your colleagues could participate. And then the final thing that we'll do in today's presentation is we'll also highlight the January 2021 CapsimInbox version that we'll be providing free, should you like to start planning it to be implemented in your courses now. So let's go ahead and get started. To start, let's start with an introduction to the CapsimInbox Pilot Pass. So what we're essentially doing with this initiative is that during each month in 2021, we at Capsim will be providing free access to one of our authored CapsimInbox versions. At this point, we have roughly 16 versions at this point in time. And we'd like to share, a couple of these versions that were recently developed by our authors over the course of 2019 as well as 2020. So that way you can see, some of our other offerings as well. Now, what will be the main components of this process? Well, what we'll be doing is providing self-directed, individualized, and award-winning development tools on a monthly basis that could be completed anytime within, of course, that calendar month. This, of course, is open to all of our Capsim users, so it is exclusive to you, as well as to any of your colleagues that you would like to share this with. They can participate in this as well, and you can actually try this with as many students as you'd like, as often as you'd like, within each month of that simulation. And really what we're going to do is we're going to make it a really simple, straightforward process where you get these emails monthly declaring what version will be free that month. All you simply have to do is respond to that or fill out a short form, and we'll be in contact with you almost instantaneously with a course that's set up under your professor account and a hyperlink for your students to register, or we can even do bulk registration, as we've done with some of our group-based simulations in the past. But as far as to frame exactly what is CapsimInbox, whether you're a current Capsim user that's utilizing our platform sims, or if Inbox is a totally new concept to you, I thought I would describe what exactly is a microsimulation and kind of the difference between those two. Well, as you can imagine, the microsimulation, coming from the name, actually has a lot of bite-sized learning components to it. These are much more abridged experience, roughly only 60 minutes to complete a given version of Inbox, or at least the time allotted anyway. And I would say an average completion time that we see for these micro simulations is roughly 30 to 45 minutes. So it's a great kind of fun experiential exercise or as a case study, and we'll talk a little bit more about use cases later on in today's presentation. But really, again, the focus is on bite-sized learning as opposed to some of our more platform-based simulations that take a larger component of the semester and are done on a round basis that can take up several weeks within the curriculum. We essentially wanted to flip to the other side of that coin with CapsimInbox and provide self-directed, individualized learning that really focused on career skill development. Which brings us to our next point about what is microsimulation, and that they very much have a specific topical focus. So as you've seen with our platform sims, these cover a variety of different topical areas such as R&D, marketing, production, and finance. But what we tried to do with each version of Inbox is have it a very acute focus. Say, for instance, on general management or people management, or maybe more quantitative subjects such as financial management or operations management, or even human resources, for example. And we'll be able to share with you a list of everything that we currently have available. The third point as to what is a microsimulation is that these simulations typically measure a very defined set of attributes. Again, this is going to be more so skills and competencies directly correlating with the skills you need to be successful in a career. So whether they be more soft skill focused, such as leading or problem solving, or more technical or hard skill focused, say as an example as financial statement analysis, to give you a quick example there. And what's great about these kind of more acute focused micro simulations is that we're really able to put an emphasis on the analytics all the way down to the individual student level, while at the same time still being able to report on the analytics from the cohort level or even institution level, depending on the amount of students that go through the simulation. And of course, micro simulations have seen a variety of use in different industries over the years, whether it be in academia, on the corporate side, where we actually see some of these versions of Inbox used for everything from high potential employee identification to, say, certification programs. But it's also used in government applications as well to this date. But there's always been this kind of misconception with micro simulations that, they're difficult to create, they're not particularly cost effective, and they're hard to administer. And what we wanted to do with this Inbox solution, as well as the Pilot Pass in general, is to dispel those notions. So let's start with a quick run through of what it's like from the participant perspective to go through Inbox. So to start, what exactly is CapsimInbox as a micro simulation? Well, CapsimInbox is a simulated email experience where essentially what we do is we put the student into a day in the life experience of a manager or even a senior leadership official at a company. And what they do is they'll respond to a variety of email and instant message stimuli that can refer to anything from the day-to-day operations that are common within that industry or within that type of company, or even the types of problems and even crises that they can encounter. And really what's a good framing device for what exactly Inbox is think of it like a digital choose your own adventure, where essentially, based on the responses that the students make to given emails, they're going to see the consequences of their actions in real time and get responses back based on those selections, of course. And what's great about this is that student A and student B in some of our versions can end up in entirely different places based on their decisions. Now, outside of the microsimulation experience itself, which we'll dive into in just a second, we also have this bookended with a experience overview or onboarding, if you will. And then on the latter side, we have the individualized feedback report and skill builder. So let's first talk a little bit about the onboarding process. Typically what we're doing here is we have a little bit of a welcome to the student where we describe the fictional scenario as well as the fictional role that they'll be participating in the exercise. Additionally, we have them do a quick self-assessment where they can pretty much assign their perceived skill levels, which then we can then compare directly to their performance in the Inbox micro simulation. Now, on the latter half, you'll have the feedback report, of course, where it's an instantaneous and individualized feedback report that's provided immediately after the simulation has been completed, or you can set to have access at a later date. And what we do is we show the student metrics such as their overall performance by percentile, as well as visualizing self-awareness levels and skill gaps. And then we even have an optional individual development plan that they can view as well. And again, we'll highlight these things as we go through the participant experience. So let's take a look at that. So first things first, they start with the self-assessment. Before you proceed into the exercise, we ask students the question, relative to your peers, where do you place yourself on the following skills? And in this particular case, we're looking at our general management version, where we are assessing organizing, leading, problem solving, communicating, and initiative qualities. But of course, the user interface, the user experience is going to be the same for every Inbox as a part of the Pilot Pass program, simply, of course, being the scenario, the skills assessed, and the participant role being the changes. So say here, for instance, a student may say, I think I'm pretty average when it comes to organizing. I'll put myself in the 50th percentile. But I think I'm a pretty good leader. I'm going to put myself in the 70th percentile, but I think I could work a little bit on my problem solving, maybe in the 40th percentile. And again, this will come in later after they've completed the Inbox experience, which I can now show you. So here what you're seeing is the user interface to CapsimInbox. And essentially, as you can see, it looks very much like the Outlooks and the Gmail platforms that we use on a day-to-day basis. And just to quickly walk you through the user interface here, you'll see at the top that we do have a timer, so it is a timed experience, and we can either remove that or set it to a custom time if you wish. And then moving from the left to the right across the screen, on the left side, you'll see that they have their Inbox folder that'll have the responses that they'll have to make. They'll have a sent items folder if they'd like to review any previous responses. And then beneath that, they'll have a company drive where we can have a variety of different images, documentations, and video for that given version that the student may need to rely on to make well-informed decisions, or even just to find out a little bit of background about the scenario. So common things in this area would be, say, an organizational chart to understand where they're at within the company, Or perhaps, say it's a more sales-centric version, maybe they have promotional aspects in there that they may refer to for volume pricing. Or maybe even having some video or documentations on the different products or services that that company is providing. Now from there, to the right of that, you'll see the list of emails with the fictional character names, fictional titles, subject lines, as well as a bit of a preview of the given message. And I would say within a given inbox experience that, at least the versions that we'll be providing access to as a part of the 2021 Pilot Pass, most of these can be completed in, again, roughly 30 to 45 minutes, with the students responding to about 20 to 30 emails on average. And it's kind of a fun aspect here too, because we can get into a bit of the student's prioritization. Do you respond to, say, the CEO before responding to, say, an intern or a first-line manager? We have a variety of priority and time-based bonuses that are within this simulation based on their effectiveness at prioritizing tasks. Now, to the right of that, we have a sample email here from William, our Chief Marketing Officer. What you're seeing here is, of course, the email body, as well as a variety of different response options that the students can choose. Now you may say, why did we go about multiple choice for this type of exercise? Well, what we wanted to do was provide a variety of very nuanced responses. Because just like in the real world, there's a variety of ways that you can handle a situation effectively, but it's more so about, are you picking the most effective way to respond to that situation? And this can give you a little bit of insight into the scoring metrics of Inbox as well. Say, for instance, by far, the response A is the best, most effective response there is. Perhaps that has 5 points going to, say, problem solving, for instance. Maybe the second response, still effective, but not as effective, 3 points. Maybe the third response doesn't really move the ball forward. Maybe we don't attribute points to that. And maybe there's a decision that's going to be actually detrimental, that'll actually lead the student, maybe perhaps it's a mistake, for instance. We can do negative point values to that as well. And we can, of course, have course corrections where the student can get back on the right path via the kind of threaded nature of these emails. Now, in some of our versions, we have different types of responses where it's not just multiple choice, but we can also have multi-answer, say select 3 out of the 5, or even written responses, which is my personal favorite. Say, for instance, a student responds to 3 or 4 emails and makes some key decisions, but then a final email pops in from their supervisor asking them for their rationale. Why did you decide to make that decision? And they can have full text capabilities to write out their response as if they were writing a real email. And what's great about this is, from the professor perspective or the administrative perspective, you can evaluate that written response entirely separate from the empirical scoring within an inbox. Now, just a couple other final things of note within the experience here is, of course, that there are instant messages as well. Usually these are a little bit more timely in the way the students have to respond to them, but it makes it so they're not just responding to emails generally. And of course, when they complete the exercise, they'll be prompted, you have completed this CapsimInbox experience, which will then provide them with immediate access to their individualized feedback report, which you're seeing on screen here. And just to quickly walk through the main components of this experience, the first thing that we share with the students is their overall performance by percentile. So we're actually showing their empirical score against the entire population of users that have gone through that given version, whether they're in academia, corporate, you name it. So they know just where their skills are at against the entire populace or the entire sample group that's gone through that inbox. Secondly, we provide them with the developmental index. And what this really speaks to is the proficiency. How proficient were their responses in the inbox exercise? And then we also provide the metric of consistency. How consistent was that proficiency demonstrated? And then on the right side, and perhaps more importantly, we provide them with a self-awareness gauge on a scale of 1 to 6. And this is where we really start to compare the self-assessment with the inbox assessment itself. So say, for instance, you achieve a 2 or 3 on the self-awareness scale. Well, this could actually indicate that you're either underestimating or overestimating your capabilities, where a higher score, say 5 or 6, would let you know that your perceived skills are a little bit closer to reality, essentially. And then finally, on the bottom, when it comes to skill gaps, we actually visualize these metrics. That way we can not only identify which areas are the student's strengths, but also which areas are in most need for improvement. Because we give them all this feedback, how do they exactly utilize that to improve their skills going forward? Well, what happens is we have access to an individualized development plan, where we essentially provide developmental tactics, regardless of the version that's being highlighted, everything from best practices to suggested resources and even just your general tips and tricks on how to be more effective with that skill. So say, for instance, we're trying to improve our organizing skill. We have our developmental tactics. We'll do a little bit of self-reflection as to why the skill is relevant to our career and throughout our lives. And then we'll actually set tangible quantitative goal statements. I want to improve my organizing capabilities by 10% by this date, and here's exactly what I'm going to do in order to achieve that. So what they're actually doing is they're creating the individual actions they're going to take, when they'll complete them, and what resources are necessary in order to improve that. This is something that the student can save and develop over time, and that the administrator or the professor has direct access to via their portal, and they can actually see the student's progress on creating that report as well. And this comes in handy into great effect when we see these simulations used in a pre and post test atmosphere. So that kind of encapsulates the participant experience, or the student experience, if you will. The final thing I can do is show you a bit about the instructor dashboard, the professor experience, because really we tried to develop Inbox with very little administrative burden, or very simple implementation in mind. So really it's as simple as just setting a start and end date for your students to access the version of Inbox. When would you like the reports available, if not instantaneously? And we even have a simple hyperlink that you can provide directly to students. That way they can register and immediately create their account. And again, if you're more familiar with our bulk registration process, we can do that again here for CapsimInbox, where we can auto-generate logins for you for your entire course. And really what's great is that after you provided access, you kind of just get to sit back and watch the results come in. You'll see down here in the bottom of the screen a course roster, where you'll see everybody's overall score, self-awareness level, how they performed on individual metrics or skills or competencies within the simulation, when did they complete the exercise, and again, if and when did they complete the individual development plan, which you can of course view. Just a quick walkthrough of the professor side portal right here. But as a result of this flexible platform, we've been able to create a variety of different versions. As I said, we're just north of 16 at this point. And what I'm delighted to show you now is the different versions that may be a part of the 2021 initiative. And we'll of course be announcing the January version here shortly. But as you can see on the left side of the screen, we have a variety of more general soft skill versions, such as general management and people management, ethical decision making, which is my personal favorite, time management, which was actually recently featured in Harvard Business Review, and one of our most recent in-house versions being student success, where this one solely focuses on trying to improve student retention from their first year through the remaining term that they're on campus. And on the right side of the screen, you'll see a variety of different quantitative versions. Essentially what we wanted to do was work with a variety of authors from across the country, around the globe, to create different versions of Inbox for essentially every facet of your undergrad and graduate level business programs. Now again, this slide will come up a little later in the presentation, but even if it's not selected, even if one of these versions is not selected for that given month, if you personally, as a professor, administrator, department chair, or dean would like to review these, we'd be more than happy to provide you access to any of these. Now, as a result of all of these different versions that we've created, we've actually had some great reception from the educational technology community. In fact, just this year alone, we received 2 awards from the EdTech Awards, one for the Trendsetter for 2020, for a product or service setting a trend for workforce development, and again for the Cool Tool Award for 2020 for a professional skills solution. And in fact, outside of these 2 awards, we actually were selected as multiple finalists for a variety of different categories, whether it be regarding simulation-based tools, personalized learning, professional development, or again, even those soft skills or 21st century skills, if you will. But how are we exactly seeing these utilized? Say that you want to participate in the 2021 Pilot Pass. How do I implement these within my course? Well, really what we're seeing on the academic side is 3 main types of use cases. We have the first off being your just kind of standard exercise, kind of a fun assignment to be able to provide to students that can be completed either in class or out of class as a homework assignment. More recently, we're seeing a lot of these used in more of a case study format. So try to increase participant engagement, drive in-class discussion immediately after everybody in the course goes through that version. That we can have a very active discussion talking about the scenarios in depth, possible outcomes, and why people made certain decisions. And then one of the more common use cases we're also seeing in academia is as an assessment. Because what we're essentially able to do here, as you saw with the professor portal, is be able to capture the students' proficiency levels on these key career skills. And in a pre-test, post-test format, say for instance, we have them go through general management at the beginning of the semester and at the end of the semester. Well, what we'll be able to do is actually provide that net change, that empirical longitudinal development right within the course portal for you that you could utilize for essentially assurance of learning if it's in line with your learning objectives, depending on the version, of course. But the great kind of thing is with Inbox is we see a variety of different use cases, even if it's just a fun extra credit or a voluntary activity. Students really enjoy it because it's a very gamified experience. And at the same time, it's something they really haven't seen before in terms of a learning tool. And of course, there's all the familiarity component, since we all use email correspondence on nearly a day-to-day basis. But now that we've thoroughly covered CapsimInbox from the experience itself and some use cases, let's go back to the CapsimInbox Pilot Pass. And what I can do now is explain to you, why did we decide to actually create this? Well, really, the first and foremost, the main reason we wanted to create this pass is that we at Capsim fully understand that higher education's course format is still very much in flux due to the current situation. Whether you're still on campus or you're participating in some sort of a hybrid format, or if you've gone fully virtual, CapsimInbox will work for you in any of those different types of scenarios. And to that point specifically, we identified that there really was this need for more asynchronous experiential learning that could be conducted in either a virtual or on-site atmosphere. Additionally, we think of it as a very easy and fun way for those of you that may have experience with some of our more complex and group-based simulations to try some of our newer creations as of recent. And again, really hitting on it's very self-directed, easy to administer, and very minimal administrative tasks associated with it outside of when do they access it and when do you want the reports to be seen. And what's a great component too is that if you are using any of our platform simulations, whether it be Capsim Core, Capstone, Foundation, or even our newer Capsim Ops, is that there's a lot of synergy with these versions with that, because a good quarter of them actually share the sensor industry as their kind of fictional companies the students working in. So it could be a great little exercise to input at any point that you're using one of those group-based simulations. Another great thing is that you'll be able to collect feedback on your students' responses, the students' experiences, essentially, and we can provide that feedback to you. And it's a great way to kind of test the effect in this. You know, would a solution like this be a great fit for your course? While of course, giving you the opportunity to offer a helping hand to your colleagues that might be interested in participating in this as well. But how exactly do you and your colleagues participate in this event? Well, really, we wanted to make it an easy turnkey process. We're literally just having to reach out to us and let us know that you're interested. Because the way that's going to work is we're going to announce the upcoming free version 1 week prior to the start of each month. So of course, while we're debuting January's today, on say January 25th, a week before February 1st, we'll then announce the next one. This will give you a week to reach out to us and just say, hey, I'm interested, and we can immediately create that course and provide you with a hyperlink to set up. Which brings us to how do you respond? Well, as those emails come out each month, simply reply to the email directly, or we'll have options for you to fill out a short form, and you can even schedule a chat via Calendly if you'd like to talk with one of our solution specialists. If you'd like to refer one of your colleagues, you can just send them the same simple form where they can indicate you as the person that referred them, or just simply copy or forward the email to them, and we'd be happy to directly respond. And again, to make it as simple as possible, we'll have our team of solution specialists here at Capsim who will immediately set up your course under your professor account, and they can reach out to you with the registration link for your students to go ahead and create that and then access the simulation. And no worries if you're worried about these steps right now, because we're going to include these steps in each announcements we have each month. Now, within those blasts, we'll also include a page that will describe this platform, just as like we're doing today, with a Pilot Pass landing page, which of course we're going to provide this as a recording. You'll have this deck as well. You can go ahead and access that, and I'll even include it within those email blasts too. And what's great about this is we're looking at 12 versions. Even during the summer, we're going to release some all throughout the year and everything. Really, the only stipulation is that you have to complete the pilots within that calendar month. But what I can do here is, again, is just I'll leave this up on screen just for a second if you'd like to take another look at the different versions we have available. Again, even if it's not the one featured for that month, if you want to try them yourself as a professor or your colleagues may be interested, feel free to let us know. We can set you up with some demo accounts. That way you can try these to see if it's a good fit for your course. But now with that, I'm happy to announce the January 2021 version that will be kicking off this CapsimInbox Pilot Pass for next year. And that version is going to be one of our most highly regarded versions, and one of the fastest growing versions that we have right now is CapsimInbox Crisis Management. So with this version, I can now detail a little bit about that. This was actually a version we released just under a year ago. We released it just prior to Christmas of last year. And what's great about this one is that we put the student directly in the role of a CEO at, you guessed it, a sensor company. So again, regardless if you're using Capsim Core, Capstone, and so on, this will have some great synergy if you want to implement it alongside that within your course, or even as a standalone. And as far as the skills that we're evaluating in this, we're really focusing on two key areas: crisis response, as well as crisis recognition. And as far as the author that we worked with to create this version, well, we had the pleasure of working with Dr. John Parnell of the University of North Alabama. And what was great with working with Dr. Parnell was that he literally wrote the book on crisis management. It's one of the top selling books in the field. And he took a lot of his own corporate experience and experience in academia over the years to input that directly into this CapsimInbox version. Now, as far as the topics, you'll be doing everything from creating a crisis management plan as well as a team. You'll be dealing with different workplace allegations, whether they be regarding harassment or discrimination. You'll have to deal with some vendor relations that may cause issues at your manufacturing facility, as well as some fire hazards and dealing with defective products. In regards to the format, we actually have this split into 3 small sections where the students essentially have checkpoints, if you will, where they'll respond to roughly 5 to 10 emails in each of those 3 sections. However, they can still complete all 3 of those sections cumulatively in under an hour's time. Again, I would say for this particular version, we're looking at a completion time of roughly 45 minutes, I would say. And really just to kind of give you an overarching view of the scenario, we're really challenging the students to think strategically in this version, to make some critical organizational decisions that their decisions are actually going to affect how much the crises affect their firm directly. So, and the great part too is that just like in the real world, they may not have all of the information that they require to make a sound decision. They may be working on unclear or with incomplete information. So we want to challenge them to make the best decisions possible to prevent or minimize the adverse effects of those crises. And this could be utilized in everything from your strategic management courses to crisis-specific courses, or even as a fun exercise all the way down to the intro to business level, if you will. And what's also great about crisis management, as well as the other versions that we're going to be featuring as a part of the 2021 Pilot Pass program, is that we provide additional supplemental resources to you as the instructor. So even if you've had a chance to go through the simulation, which we of course suggest, we also have these additional documentations that will literally walk you through each part of the simulation. What are the main aspects that they're going to be responding to in each of the different phases, and how you can exactly discuss those key issues in your course as far as a debrief goes. So we want to provide as much support as possible in that regard. Now, one thing I did want to note as well is that you've seen a lot of the different versions of Inbox we created. You've seen crisis management, and you'll see multiple other versions throughout the course of 2021. But say you take a look at this platform and you're like, you know, I really like this kind of simulated email experience. I see a lot of the different topics that Capsim has, but I'm looking for something very particular to my course, or I have a very interesting idea. Well, we can actually work with you, just as I have with the authors, including Dr. Parnell, to create any type of experiential learning tool that you'd like with our CapsimInbox authoring platform. And essentially what we're able to do with this is you're able to create the exact same microsimulation experiences that we just previewed today. And you can either create short 5-minute kind of experiences that could use as a fun in-class assignment, or you could even go as far to make a fully fledged 60-minute version like we have, and we at Capsim will actively work with you to publish this solution. And what I can do here is even show you just briefly a look at that user interface. There's absolutely no development fees or fees to access this whatsoever. This is a completely free tool for all of our current users to utilize. And I'll even have a hyperlink here if you'd like to sign up to take a look at that should you be interested. But with that, I'll go ahead and close out today's webinar. I do appreciate all of your time during our time describing what exactly is CapsimInbox, as well as detailing the 2021 Pilot Pass. If you would like to contact me with any questions, I've got my information here on screen, as well as our Capsim support channel. And looking forward to having you all participate in this initiative over the course of 21. And I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.